Hello, stranger.
Hello.
Hello.
Who are you?
I am David Vandenberg. I am the voice for Lucius Malfoy.
You don't look like Lucius.
I think I look just like him. Just a little change.
That is the magic of audio drama.
You need some more blonde.
I do.
Some more
I
blondness.
just need to take a whole gallon of bleach to these luscious locks.
Yes.
Yes.
But you certainly sound like Lucius Malfoy.
I like to think so.
There we go.
Yes.
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 That's how we got the part.
I have the image of just an ice cube that's slowly melting.
Yes. Isn't that kind of the arc for him in this series?
I think so.
He's
It is
slowly
definitely a
melting.
breakdown
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I'm Justin Zagri. I am the co-writer and director of The Great Wizarding War. I have here Mick.
I'm Mick Ignis, and I play Severus Snape, and am the producer of The Great Wizarding War.
He is indeed. He produces extremely well.
I produce things.
Yes.
They get produced, and then they come into existence.
Yes. So, we're kind of just every episode is kind of like a rundown and like a breakdown of like what happened in episode 5, and I feel like the beginnings of Lucius's arc are coming through because we see that he's kind of in episode 4 or 3, he kind of messed up with the raid.
Not my fault.
Of course, it's not your fault.
Not my fault.
Not part of the blame Lucius first crowd.
Right. And
I'd love to just talk about, even before getting into that, just our discussions about how Lucius Malfoy would be portrayed in the radio play and how we were going to take this character that we know very well in the books, who's in a very different place, and reverse engineer them to what they were like when they were younger.
right. Yeah, and I feel like Lucius was kind of he's kind of in a proving himself kind of setup right now because he's well out of school, but he's trying to start making a mark for the Malfoys as well as have real influence in the wizarding world. And there isn't really much info as to exactly what he was doing at this time, so we're kind of setting him up to be like a little bit of a leader who's eager to prove himself, and then kind of like trying to gain the favor of the Dark Lord and gain the favor of creating a name for himself. That's basically how I saw him.
And I think he has so much family pressure on him just to live up to the Malfoy name. It's something that it's a very, very old family. They've always had a lot of power, and so now it's like, what am I doing with my life? I have to strive for their level of greatness, or else
Right.
I'm going to be a failure.
Yeah, and
Right.
it's something I think we're all very hyped up by a completely different franchise this week. But to go to one of the initial ideas we were thinking in reference to Lucius Malfoy was thinking of Jaime Lannister from Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Because we thought of him as like, when we see him in the books, this is him kind of living off the family wealth, living off the family name, and sort of a retired from war.
Sure.
But with a pedigree to him, like he was a big shot in the war and is now like, even though his side didn't win, enjoying the spoils of it. So
Sure.
we were thinking of the sort of the sort of Jaime Lannister character that we see when he first shows up to in the first episode, where he's full of arrogance. He shows up in his armor. He has his golden hair. He's just
Golden lock.
golden
Golden lock.
Whoosh.
yeah,
Whoosh.
extremely egotistical, but kind of in the way that you would expect that. He's a great swordsman. He's a great fighter on the field, but he's protected.
Right.
His family would not let him actually be in any danger, but he's protected. So he has that sort of arrogance to him where he feels very full of himself. So how did you run with that with the audition, and how did you develop it from there?
So I remember the passage that you guys sent me for the audition was about the family, and it was about the walls. And so I remember that. I remember really seeing the family legacy, and just being sort of confined in these tight stone walls. I could imagine like a little bit of water trickling down at some like mold. It was like a little dank, but like, this is me. Like, this is the basement of my heart. And then from there, it was like, I have to own it. Like, I have to own my family history. And in doing that, I have to own like anyone that I come across.
Right.
And like, I'm not going to take any flack. I'm not going to let anyone one up me. It's like, this is my path. And if you don't get out of my way, like, you can do whatever you want. These walls will stand no matter what happens.
That's interesting. It's a great way of looking at it. I always love hearing an actor's perspectives because I have my own perspectives on who I want Lucius to be, and I saw him as very ambitious and forthcoming, and like he's like, I'm going to go and get what I want, and your point of view is like, I'm going to protect what I've got, which is interesting. But it's the performance comes out either way. So it's not really what I'm not worried about. Like, how do you do that? Do it my way, because the performance will be better.
We didn't know that was what you had in mind. So now we have to re-record everything.
Everything.
Well, one of the things we thought about with the Malfoy family, and considering the people who joined this war, is that especially when you're considering sides like this and building up an opposition like Voldemort is doing, you get a lot of people who are disenfranchised joining, people who don't have a lot of money, who are looking for a better life. But in this case, Lucius Malfoy is already extremely well off. It's almost to a point where he has nothing to do but lose if things don't go bad.
It's also not money; it's power. He wants to create. He wants like the only place where once you get to a certain ceiling with money, the next ceiling is power.
Yeah, it's power and influence and everything.
Right.
So him joining Voldemort in this and wanting to be a part of it. What, other than him just conserving what he already has, what do you feel he wants to gain, and what do you think that he's fighting so hard to be at a position of power with Voldemort versus just a well-wisher?
Right. So I mean, I think that he goes after power for its own sake. I think that the whole family has a history of moral flexibility that's been sort of passed down. And so when he looks around, he says, "All right, what I want is this ultimate goal of extreme power. What is the best path to that? Am I going to be constrained by the system that's been put into place, or looking over here's this new contender who just is pure power? And he's evil, but whatever.
He's a means to an end.
Yeah, he's a means to an end.
Yeah.
He's not at all ideological. It's just, how can I get what I want? And Voldemort is that path.
I see that. I've always saw Lucius as not having ideology. Yeah, I remember like it was either him. It was like the history of the Malfoys, where it was either Lucius or his dad or some Malfoy that secretly kept Muggle objects and memorabilia for themselves, even though they said they were, totally pure blood. They're like, they don't actually care.
Yeah, and like I was reading about it where the family had no problem like being in Muggle society.
Yeah,
and like they was like involved in like finance and stuff like that. Like they didn't care. But then as soon as the statute was passed, they were the first ones to jump in front of it and say like, oh yes, we believe in this firmly. Like, let's go ahead and create the separation, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what side of the argument they're on, so long as they're on the winning side.
Sure.
Yeah. And loudly on the winning side.
So now that episode 5 is starting to show the beginnings of a new threat for Malfoy in the form of Severus Snape through Luther Frumentar. What do you think is going through Lucius's head?
This guy. I don't know the age of people, so I'm not thinking guy, but just he comes into my house, right? Like the base of my power.
Right. And
he disrespects me. He doesn't listen to me. He undercuts my authority. He thinks that he's better at this than I am. Like, how
Which he
dare
is.
he is. Yeah, he is.
He is.
I would never say it, but
no, of course.
Yeah.
Even if he knew it, like I don't know if he knows it yet, or if he's acknowledging it, if he doesn't know ahead yet. But yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
And so it's this building frustration where he's been undercut at every turn. He got to lead the mission, and the mission was a failure, and now he's training, and in the middle of training he gets interrupted by this guy he has no respect for. So I think it's a ticking bomb.
Ticking bomb. Interesting. Okay.
And to throw back again to one of the reasons,
Make friends with your mic a little bit more for me. Thank you.
One of the reasons again that I had considered Jaime Lannister in that first episode was because I saw Snape in that as having the same dynamic when they first meet Jon Snow, when they first come in contact. Because this is somebody who is blue blood to the core, who feels it's just like, I have earned my place by my family's lineage. My family has fought to get me to where I am.
Sure.
And you're a mutt.
Yeah.
Like you are.
He is a. That's interesting. Half-blood mutt.
You are literally like. There's the mudblood sort of mentality and everything like that, but for Snape, it's just like you're nothing. You have no family history. You've come from nothing. You are you're not special. So you should be in the back row. Right. Like listening to what I say. It doesn't matter whether or not you know more or what your skill level is. It's like, I'm the leader. I was meant to lead. I was born to lead.
This is my house.
Yeah.
This is my house.
This is my role.
And it's not like to you. It's not just in the mindset of that. It's not so much you think of it as an entitlement. You think of it as, I haven't just worked hard, but this is hundreds of years of my blood working hard to get me to where I am right now. And you're no one.
Yeah.
And I've been loving the Snape Lucius scenes. I think they're deliciously
It's just like you can just feel that,
My biggest regret for the way we set up production, which will change in the next session, is like, when we record together, I need us to be next to each other, staring at each other through the glass at the mics, because when we recorded that last scene, like the great scene from this episode, back and forth, we were on opposite sides of the rooms, we're looking at each other, and I'm just like, this back and forth cattiness of these two like wizards,
I could feel it in the booth where I was just sitting there, and it was like we had just like our personas of just that energy coming out of our chest, where it's like we're fighting for control of the room. We're just like, step back.
And they couldn't be more opposite from each other, despite the fact that they're on the same team. They in every way could not be more opposite from each other, and that carries over to the canonical books and films.
Yeah. It was more like they had a lingering like apathy with a hint of distaste for each other, and I wanted to set that up to where like their arc is like they have a growing animosity towards each other, but by the end of the series, there's like a calming of relations. They still really don't like each other, but they're like, okay, well, it's over now, so we better get along.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you had somebody you hated in school, like in middle school or something like that. Where
Spoiler alert, yes.
Yeah, completely. I think we all had that. We're all in entertainment.
Middle school was amazing for me. No bullies.
You
never
were the
got
bully.
punched. Never begged to go to martial arts to
People
learn how to
always
defend
giving
myself.
me their lunch money.
That's because,
it was great.
Yeah, for the record, it's because Justin was the one stealing my lunch money. So yeah, much better for you.
Look, it's science. I'm taller.
but for imagine that. Imagine it's just like you have this intense hatred and rivalry where like you get out of school and forget about this person, and 15 years later, like you work with them at the same office.
Right.
And it feels weird to like bring up old conflict, but you're never going to get over the fact that it's just like you were in this thing together and you hated each other.
Yeah. Right.
And all the memories you have of this person were like of how much you hated them. It doesn't matter that you're not in class anymore, not at all rivals anymore. But you're never going to get over that gut feeling that you just churn. It's like, I hate this person.
Yeah.
Right.
And they're in very different places, and things obviously get much more complicated in the books when Voldemort shows up again, because he calls on both of them, and then all of a sudden they're thrown back into this.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Real quick, I'm gonna pause. Your mic is not pointed right towards your mouth, so here's what you're gonna do. Watch me. See these two things right here? Hold on to the mic. Hold this. Squeeze these two items right here.
These two items.
Yep.
There? Oh, yeah.
Squeeze it. Turn it so the sign Zingu is facing you.
Oh, okay. That'll do it.
Yeah, you sound so much better.
All right.
Okay.
There we go.
Yes. Oh, you.
All right. Good practice session. Let's do it again.
You're
We're on the top.
Yes.
Right on the top.
All right. Unshun. No. So
these outtakes and more can be found on the YouTube channel.
Yes.
Under Broad Strokes Bloopers.
Oh wow, that's a great new channel.
I
Broadstrokes
know.
Bloopers. I
It's
got
a great title.
Broadstrokes Plays for the eventual video game channel I'm never gonna do.
Take that, Garrett, and your title for this talkback.
Right. So let's get into other parts of the episode, specifically with Lily Evans.
Yeah.
We started out seeing her that she was on a really good career path. She's having an interview with her mentor of a doctor, saying that you're doing great, but you can't be biased. And then she has to heal a Death Eater, which we find at the end of the episode. Once she healed him and she left for the night, he escaped and killed her mentor and 2 other nurses on his way out. So what do you think goes through a person's mind when they follow the Hippocratic Oath and then as a consequence their mentor was killed?
This is a real world thing that my hat's off to medical professionals who have to take this moral high ground with people who are repugnant. I mean, you consider the fact that in prisons, the worst of the worst, murderers, rapists, serial killers, people like that, if they get sick, if something happens to them, even Charles Manson, when he had when he was going into cardiac arrest and he was dying, they couldn't just let him die.
Right.
They had to take him to a hospital, and then some doctor is just like, what do I have to do tonight? I have to save Charles Manson's life.
Right.
Like, that's their job. It's just like, as a medical professional, they have the right to, if they're under the care, you have to take care of them. If some, terrible, awful monster of a person has some illness and they go to prison to spend the rest of their life in prison, they have to be taken care of. And there's some doctor who went to medical school, who wanted to save lives, who is now faced with the fact that they have to save a life that they are not pleased exists in this
They have to
world.
save a life of an SS officer.
Yeah.
And that is really rough in this case, where Lily now is faced with the fact that she has to save the life of somebody who, in that moment, she realizes is trying to kill people she cares about.
Right.
And then by the end of the episode, it happens. Her worst thought in that instance, the one that the other nurses left the room because they're like, this might happen and we can't be a part of it.
Right.
Technically speaking, the nurses who were worried about this, who ended up being right, did the wrong thing.
Yeah.
They gave up their oath. They didn't do what they had promised to do, which is heal people regardless of ideology. But their worst fear came true, and they were stuck with that. And my hat's off to medical professionals that do this, defense attorneys that have to believe in the justice system, believe what they're doing, but may have to represent people that they
find
know are
morally
guilty.
repugnant, yeah.
They
Right,
know
yeah.
are guilty.
But that's our legal system.
Yeah.
And it's
and
it's important that it stays that way because you need to consider people innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah.
And if it's anything other than the other way around, even if it's without a shadow of a doubt that, you think this person's guilty, the evidence needs to be presented. So,
and you have to follow all of the procedures, so that way in these future cases it's like, all right, everything that was supposed to be done has been done, right?
Right.
You want to make sure that the total system works.
So my question to you, David, since you don't know what happens after episode 5, is what do you think Lily's reaction would be to this?
So I was listening to the episode again, and one of the things that struck me was I imagine that how like kind of lonely it must be for her, living in a house where her parents just don't get it, right? Like, I remember they read the headline, but they don't get, or I don't think I maybe I'm wrong about this, but I don't think that they really understand everything that's going on in the.
I don't think they understand the levity.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's kind of how I wrote them.
Yeah, and so when they're sitting there talking oh, do you like your job or not? And she has to say yes, but then this thing happened. I think that she feels, of course, conflicted, but also really isolated. Where it's these people that are closest to her do not understand the struggle that she's going through.
Right.
I think for her, I think that she is a person of great conviction. And so if I were to, toss my dart at where she's going, I think that when she comes out of this crisis of conscience, that she will double down on her beliefs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. Let's move on to Peter and our favorite, Mrs. Pettigrew. We see that
She
they
is amazing.
we see them in they're shopping for some warmer clothes because she wants to move to Greenland to get away from this war, and Peter's not entirely for it, but he's he can't really fight his mother. And then he sees Sirius in the background, and his immediate reaction is to go up to him, being like, "Are you okay? And I want to help you. I just want I want to do the best I can to make up for this." Why is it that you guys think Peter Pettigrew is so? Because I have my reasons, and I want to know what your guys' point of view. So I'd rather not talk about my reasons. I'd rather hear what you guys think the reasoning is for Peter Pettigrew's motivation to try and make up for his mistakes in Snape and the Marauders, try and get the band back together.
That's all he's got, man. I mean, the bottom line is he loves his mother, but he knows how coddling his mother is. I think that Peter is stuck in just the fact that he's, he has the mother that he does, but he's not a mama's boy. Sure. There's several times that we notice in this where his mother's just trying to feed him and trying to give him snacks and everything like that, and he's just "Oh, of course, mommy, absolutely, I would love a snack." He's not this exuberant sort of man child. He's just "I'm taking care of my mother. She's obviously a doddering goof who rains attention on me. Obviously her husband's out of the picture for whatever reason. Yeah. And Denise really brings that to life. It was funny when we did our live Wizarding War panel, Denise thought that was the last time she would be with us. Yeah. She's just "Oh, this is so wonderful, and I'm sad to see it end." It's we're not done with Mrs. Pettigrew. Yeah. We're not giving you up. We have much more with this character.
Right. Yeah, we got more going on.
But as far as family goes, he really wants to spend time with. He doesn't want to spend time with his mom. He wants his friend circle, and that's the only friend circle he has. He knows he messed up. He knows that his, it wasn't so much a choice as it was whether or not he had a fight or flight response, and he flew. Or rather skittered.
Right. Yeah. Skittered. Right. Yeah. I just had an amazing idea too. I have got to write it down. So while I do that,
dun, dun, dun.
That's right. You're watching creativity live right now.
I'll tell you what he's writing right now.
Whatever idea Justin has right now that'll end up in the future, you're watching him have it at this very moment.
So tell me, while I'm writing this down, I have to right now. David, tell me about what you think Peter Pettigrew's ideas are.
Yeah, I think that he has. I think he's embarrassed. I think he has this sense of shame where he knows that he let his friends down, and he knows this about himself. And I'm it happens again and again. I'm sure it's happened all through their time together. I see him as just being steamrolled by his mother, where she's just so overbearing, and these are the only people I think that he probably has ever really had a kind interaction with, right? You look at him and it's just oh, I could bully you, right? I could beat you up, and so I don't think that he really had anyone else, and so I think even though he's ashamed of himself and knows that he messed up, to him, it's the latest in a long string of times that he's made a fool of himself, and so I don't think that he sees this a break with them. It's just why are you so upset with me? Come on, sure. let's get back together. Come on, guys.
Right. He's not strong, and he knows he's not strong, and we see a little bit of glimpse of that in the film. Where
is it when they're shooting the wands and he's
there's several moments. I think one thing that is a little bit sad is when they're talking about the map and he goes, "Hey, that map wouldn't have been anything without me," and you can tell that is one of the few contributions that he has had to the group other than being a hanger-on, and he's grasping to that because he probably hasn't had a lot of other things that he's offered. So everyone in the group has their strength, And I feel like he wants to contribute and he wants to be, like part of the gang and be somebody who's equally valued. But he knows he's a coward. He knows he's a coward. He knows he's not that great at magic and that he's pretty much just the lackey of the group. He understands that. So
I partially disagree. He thinks that he is lacking in magical abilities, and he is a coward. That is, there's no doubt about that. But the type of magic that he did to trick Sirius and then blow himself up was nothing. And he knows the Avada Kedavra curse, which, like, when you read the books, it takes quite a bit of effort to pull it off correctly. So what interested me the most about Peter is that everybody thinks he's so weak. He's actually not quite that weak at all. He lacks confidence because he's around people who do not elevate him. He doesn't try to be elevated. He just wants to be around powerful people to feel like he's safe. And then I feel that with Voldemort, at least this is how I interpreted it, that he found safety in the power of Voldemort, but Voldemort brought out power in him. So
which he's very good at,
Yeah.
which we kind of see repeatedly, and he's definitely done with Snape.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Which
So
is
real quick, I finished writing this down real quick. It's just an idea. I don't even know if I'm going to use it, but the thought of it working this way would be so cool.
Ooh. I like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. You're not allowed.
What did he write down?
could be anything.
Could be.
It could just be a big smiley face. Who knows?
Makes me think of the Big Lebowski. He's
Yeah.
like sketching it out, and it's like
he literally held it up to us. It just says, "I've got nothing. Please act like this is brilliance."
He also slid me $50 on the table. So.
Yeah.
it's true.
It was just a Venmo thing. That's just like, you want $20? Act like this is great.
Act like you're really impressed. Just,
Yes.
But yeah, and going up to Sirius, and I think that we get a sense of Sirius's combination of anger and guilt in this scene, and the fact that like he's already kind of had this blowout with James of him not being able to connect with James. He couldn't help Remus, and now he's just like, well, what else am I going to do? It's just like, I'm trying to help. I tried to do my part. They're not letting me help. I'm going to go drink myself stupid.
Right. Poor
And
guy.
goes to a divey dive bar in Diagon Alley, which I was thrilled to have some old friends of mine supply some wizarding music.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, no, my big shout out to my friends in the band Stolen Babies, who are like an avant-garde metal band that I used to tour with when I was a teenager.
Yep.
And we were talking about that when I got the first pass of it. I felt the one thing was missing is we didn't hear anything coming out of there. It's like, well, he could have gotten kicked out of anything. There's nothing that says bar yet.
Yeah.
So
Right.
we were thinking about like wizard music, and initially we're thinking about like, looking into some of the wizard rock bands, and I'm like, I know exactly who we should get because they're so in line with being this quirky, weird, bar metal thing. And contact my friend Ronnie, who is both the bass player and the main composer for the band, and he was overjoyed. He's like, absolutely, anything you need, we'll send you. We'll send you the song without the lyrics,
the
so
instrumental.
just the instrumental version, so that we can utilize that without the lyrics. Which, by the way, check out the song in its full because singer Dominique's lyrics are great with it as well. But that's their that was their pirate pub song. That was like their it's and I think it's Never Come Back is the name of it,
Which is kind of funny.
It
Because
ended
he
up
gets kicked out of the bar and he can't come back.
And well, I think the name of the song, like, not only for that, but it's like, oh, that actually has several connections to this.
Some
Because
good
Remus
thematics,
just left. He doesn't know where Remus went.
Right.
Sirius kind of got pushed away by James.
Yeah.
So they're all separated right now. And this is like this angry, this angry, divey song called Never Come Back, where Sirius is in there just, drinking away. And we've had discussions about what could have happened in that bar and why he got kicked out, which maybe we'll go more in on one day, perhaps.
Maybe.
But, that is how we kind of imagine Sirius in a lot of this. He never stops being that guy.
Right.
Him being, drinking in these bars, and the sort of guy who wears the motorcycle jacket and is like the crazy uncle to Harry in the books,
Right.
this is how he deals with his problems. He's frustrated. He's just like, well, I tried everything I could. I tried to keep everybody together. No one would let me, so I'm going to go get drunk until I forget about it.
Right. So that's his way of dealing with himself at the bottom. And we've seen how Peter has reacted. We're going to see how James... We saw in episode 4 how James decided to move forward with his lowest point. And then we have Remus after his lowest point. So basically the end of the first act of the Great Wizarding War is all the Marauders get to their lowest points. And they're all completely separated, and they're all at their lowest, so they can only start building back up. And I put Remus in where he said he would go, which is the werewolf commune, which Valerie, right?
Yeah, Valerie Tossi.
She did a fantastic job playing the mayor.
She's somebody who I met. She was a co-star of mine, a guest star on Stand Against Evil. So one of several people who have been in the Great Wizarding War so far who I've killed on screen. I think we might actually have at least 3 or 4 people who have died by the hands of another one of my characters at some points.
Awesome.
All right. Just keeping a body count or something.
Right. Well, basically, yeah. And Valerie came in. She played both the werewolf mayor and Mrs. Evans.
Nice.
So two very different characters.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Well, that happens a lot too. These guys play multiple characters. I've actually played like at least 4 or 5, but they're tiny and they're like in the background, like a Death Eater, like don't leave me and please help me, and that's it.
Yeah, I've only played one other character that is coming up, and it's a surprise, but I cannot wait for.
We just finished episode 6 where that character debuts, and
good.
I went through there. We did like 6 takes of your character, and I made sure I picked out like the very best of that character. So
yeah, I think I had one other. I'm blanking on his name right now, but he was the.
You're Edgar Bones.
Yeah, Edgar Bones.
Yeah, no, you had a totally different. Leon and I were talking about this. We were so impressed, like the difference between the sound of Lucius Malfoy and Edgar Bones. It's like Lucius is this very particular voice. Well, indeed I do, Monetti. I've got 2 rooms looking for me. Having trouble keeping track.
Edgar Bones has a mouthful of marbles.
Yes. I remember I went to England, and I got into a taxi, and the guy was talking to me, and I couldn't understand a word he was saying. I was like, I know we're technically speaking the same language, but no, we're not. I was like, where are all the working class wizards, right? It's like, where are like
blue collar.
Yeah, it's like, where are the guys who is like, maybe he's Muggle-born and his father was a coal miner and something like that.
Sure.
It's like, he's not fancy. Like, this is the best he can do. Yeah, this is me. I love it.
It's also a great contrast to Shannon Estabrook playing Monetta.
Oh, yes.
Because she's just like, oh, yes, wonderful. Like, she's like this very refined, whimsical. Yeah. And then her partner's like, yes, ma'am, it's hungry to eat your own your own brunches. So we accidentally came up with this like hilarious pairing of
I picture her as being just like very, very tall and slender, like outrageously tall, and he's just sort of like short and
yes, ma'am, we got this.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's so funny. You saw her as tall and slender. I saw her. How did I see her? I kind of saw her as this very angular person, very square shoulders. And then the artist who draws her makes her, like she eats some burgers once in a while. Like she's got some weight on her, and but at the same time, it's also she's got strength behind that weight.
Yeah, I kind of like to imagine that, even with that accent and everything like that, she could wrestle a Death Eater down to the ground and just like, oh yes, you're coming with me now. We're gonna go into the car, okay?
Yes, I know. Like she's got him in a headlock. It's like, get off of me! Don't worry.
Don't worry. We'll get you in jail right away.
Righto. Nip nip.
So we're definitely we're gonna have much more of them coming up because we have our interrogations in each episode of with Monetta, and we'll be seeing more of Monetta and Edgar in future episodes too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So that pretty much covers it for episode 5. Now we have to talk about the other episode. Mick. Why did you choose this?
Okay, so number 1, this has been if you're not sure what we're talking about, go onto the Broadstrokes channel and be sure to check out Steamed Hams, but it's the Great Wizarding War. So I am a massive fan of classic Simpsons episodes. Like the first 12 seasons, I've literally have conversations with my friends that can be 90% quotes from classic Simpsons. So I had this idea because there's an episode of The Simpsons which is all like, I think like 24 like Tales from Springfield or something like that, where it's all these random, weird, what the hell sort of sketches.
Right.
And one of them is the classic steamed ham sketch between Principal Skinner and Superintendent Chalmers, which is meant to be the satire of like 1950s sitcom of like, oh, the boss is coming for dinner. Oh no, the dinner's ruined and he'll be here any minute.
Right.
That sort of
Except
thing.
it gets really crazy.
It gets
The house is on fire.
Yeah, it gets absolutely insane from there. And this became a huge meme.
I don't know how.
It just this random thing. It just became this random meme that people started making riffs off of it. And Justin, there's one that Justin and I are huge fans of, which is like a Metal Gear Solid version
God.
of steamed hams, and like
Unbelievable.
other ones that are just insane, where it's just like steamed hams, but every other word is or and they get like 500,000 views. It's insane, but. I had the idea to do this version specifically because of how funny it would have been to hear Snape and Bo as Voldemort doing this sketch, and just imagining Voldemort saying steamed hams. And it came out beautifully. And
It did.
I had my good friend Erica Tuesday, who I've collaborated with on in the animation world. I asked her very kindly and bought her dinner to draw our Snape and Voldemort in the style of The Simpsons. And just like, I didn't want anything else changed except for one portrait where I added a joke, which I'm really very proud of.
Oh my God.
That was the one that really got Justin, which is there's a portrait in one scene that is very clearly a couple portrait of Lily and James, but with Snape's face taped over James's face, which makes no sense whatsoever in the Wizarding world because they're moving portraits and all that. But I'm like, I love this joke so much, and it's so dumb.
It's so great.
But we worked on this for a while. I had this idea in the first session of Wizarding War recording. That's how long I've been sitting on it. It was like almost a year ago.
Wow.
And that I first had this idea.
Isn't that the worst? Like, you have ideas for movies or films or TV shows, and you can do it in like a year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You have
and
to
that's
sit
it.
there
It's an
for
April
a
Fool's
year.
joke.
Yeah.
And I already have an idea for April Fool's 2020 too,
God.
which I've also talked to Justin about. But, all the dialogue is the same except the names and specific things like Krusty Burger has changed the leaky cauldron. And instead of Agnes Skinner at the end, it's Bellatrix with Anna Brisbane cussing out in wizard lingo like Snape at the end. And then
She was great.
Yeah, and then she's just like, she saw it and she's like, whatever guys, I'll do it.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if she was even in on it. Like, she's like, what is this?
Well, a lot of people hadn't seen it.
No,
and
I had never seen it. To me, it's like I came in and you were like, "Hey, do you want to sing this?"
Well, yeah, that was the thing as well.
That's the other thing. I think that's the most brilliant part about it is that you rewrote the song.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's a jingle at the beginning of it with like, Skinner with his crazy exaggerations, the superintendent. Yeah, like that sort of thing. So I'm like, well, we can't not have the song.
Right.
Yeah.
So I rewrote the song, and like that day it was just like, who can sing?
Yes.
So David was one of them. It was myself, Chris Dorman, Danny, and Liana.
Yeah.
We all got together and did this like cheesy sort of like jingle chorus.
I actually remember that better than I do the original now. So
Yeah, I love the way it came out. I basically like wrote it the night before when I realized we had to do the jingle.
Okay.
And then rewrote one word on the fly like at that time. And I think we passed it on to Alex, and Alex is just like, why?
Yeah.
Why would you do this to me?
Right.
It's like, let me write my epic like awesome music for this
He's like, this
thing.
isn't my wheelhouse. I'm like, figure it out.
So my apologies to Alex for making you do something so stupid.
Yeah.
But
Only once a year.
Yeah, we'll make you do a stupid thing once a year. Although next year's, we'll talk about it later. But I love the way it turned out. The thing I'm most satisfied with probably is that I have several friends who were executive producers and writers on The Simpsons.
Yeah.
And they loved it.
Yeah.
And the most important one was Bill Oakley, who is the original writer of that episode of The Simpsons, as well as the showrunner of The Simpsons for several of like the golden year seasons.
Yep.
And when we first posted it up, there wasn't a link yet, and we just got a reply from him like, "Is there a link? Question mark, question mark, question mark." So when I reposted it with the link, he retweeted it immediately, and I'm like, "Well, that's all I need." Like Bill Oakley, who wrote some of the best Simpsons episodes and carried it through some really amazing years.
Yep.
You know, the creator of Steamed Hams loved our sketch and retweeted it. So
Totally.
just the screen grab of his Twitter page with the blue check and the Simpsons cartoon version of him with our stupid thing at the top with Snape with a platter of burgers, like giving it to Voldemort. I'm like, we're good.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
when
we
saw that.
We got high res of that, and that is getting printed and framed.
Oh, it's going on my wall for sure.
Like it's just one of those remarkably like so good and so stupid.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
I remember, like, I did a sketch writing class a couple years ago, and the teacher, it used to be, and the teacher was just like, I just want you guys to know, like, my favorite adjective for a sketch is just like, that's stupid. And if I say that, don't take offense. Like, if it's stupid, it's the best thing in the world.
Oh yeah.
And so it's just like something where its idea is just so simple, and it's just like, oh, duh.
Well, my beginnings before I was in acting, I was a writer for comedy animation. I was an animator at Adult Swim for years. I worked on Robot Chicken and Moral Oral, and then got brought on to the creative team for a show called Frankenhole, which I was like an assistant writer on.
I watched all of those.
Yeah, throwing things back and forth. So I assisted writers like a lot of the Mr. Show guys, like working with Dino Stamatopoulos and Scott Adsit and Jay Johnston, and like these guys who were all part of Mr. Show. And like Mr. Show's brilliant and so dumb. And like so like the dumbest sketches. I was watching one today that was like these series of commercials about like Stinson's mayo stirred mustard anise, which is like these outrageous sketches that now
Sounds very complicated.
Well, now there is a sauce that is like the whole joke was like, you know, the time saved by combining mustard and mayonnaise in like the same jar.
The internet is too powerful.
But you know, I did that, and then I was at Nickelodeon for a little while, and Erica, who did the art for this, her and I created a show for Nickelodeon that we did a pilot for that's on their YouTube channel that was like a pizza making lemur and like his Russian strongman boss who like is boisterous, busting through walls, and we had Nolan North and Tara Strong on that, and that's what I did for a while, which is funny for a lot of people because my main job now is like super serious R-rated horror monsters.
Right.
So the fact that at one time I was making rent by doing like this all ages children's cartoon show with a talking lemur, and now doing this, it's a stretch.
Yeah.
You're right.
But it was fun getting back to this a little bit and writing a little comedy sketch, which I'm planning on doing a lot more of this year.
That's good. Yeah. Try new things. Yeah, for sure. I think that's a good place to call it.
All right. Cool.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So much fun talking to you, David.
Well, thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure having you here, Mick. Bring back Garrett for episode 6 talk back. And guys, if you're enjoying this and you want to see more, then please consider checking out our Patreon. Just $1 a month would be super, super helpful. We get that money towards making sure that the sound quality sounds as best as it possibly can. And I spent $12 on this lovely tablecloth with the Patreon money. So every little bit helps, and I really appreciate if you guys could check out the Patreon. It has lots of really fun perks. Other than that, please press that ding so you can see more videos. Episode 6 is coming. I finished editing it today. I sent it to Jordan, and he is going to start mixing. So that'll be out in probably 3 weeks at the most. Gotta get it to Alex, and he can handle music, but
gotta get on the poster as well.
Yeah, get on the poster. Yep, get on the interrogation for who's going to be interrogated in next episode 6. I was almost interested in doing an interrogation for the April Fool's joke.
Well, we initially, one of the April Fool's jokes we were going to have was that the person being interrogated was going to be Gilderoy Lockhart.
Oh, yeah.
and that he was bragging about the previous episode that he saved the day and he was in the last episode, which we know he's not even in the radio play series.
Right.
And then it's like, and then what happened? And then we go into steamed hams.
Steamed hams.
And which we were thinking about it just ending when it just goes back to Gilderoy smiling and then it's just, please leave.
So if we get a bunch of Patreon money, maybe we'll do a Gilderoy Lockhart.
maybe we'll have a special guest, Gilderoy Lockhart.
Our Dobby soap opera all the house.
Oh my God, that's right. Our Dobby soap opera. That's right. Yes. But again, thanks guys for hanging out, and we'll see you next time with episode 6 and the episode 6 Talks Back. Cheers.